and welcome to Marmar's Hello There podcast with me, Martin. Anyhow, peek.
Whoa.
Today's guest is the one, the only, Q-Dog. We're going to be talking with him. Let's get it started. Hit it, boys.
Do you ever like record something and then forgot that you recorded it, and then you go back and listen to it? You're like, whoa,
All the time.
I did that. That's
all
not
the
bad.
time. And then it's super hard to play.
Yeah, yeah. Like, I think I remember like maybe a year ago, I went back and listened to the Burn Hill Scar shit.
Yeah.
And I was like, man.
Yeah, you were good then.
I know I was. Back then, yes. I was like, why did I make everything so difficult?
Yeah, I feel the same way with like the Antioch stuff especially. Because when you write on Guitar Pro, and you're like,
Oh, yeah.
I gotta play this.
Oh, yeah.
At least you actually wrote the parts physically. This was like tap, 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 tap.
But writing like that, like, it makes you play differently because you write different than you play if it's a completely different implement.
Right, and it kind of makes you gooder.
But the other thing that's funny is like when you record something like a long time ago and you listen to it again, it's kind of like a snapshot of your personality at that point.
Yeah.
And it's interesting how much you change, and you start listening to some of the stuff you record, like, oh, fuck, it's weird.
Yeah. So, anyhow, like I said, today, right now, this is technically episode 3.
3?
3. We did 1 and 2 with David. There's my dog. But yeah,
He's
episode 3.
already.
We have Q Garcia with us today. With us, I mean me and my dog and I. Bass player, great friend, a good judge of people.
Am I? Really? You sure about that?
And then here's the comic relief. Do it.
Oh.
Yeah, that's right. And we're done. Anyhow, Q, come on, bro. Get it together. So, Q, you are a bass player. I want to talk about kind of where you got started, what got you into playing bass, things like that, because to me, you're a hell of a bass player.
Thank you.
And it's not just me that thinks that. Obviously, a lot of people think you play bass pretty well.
I'd like to think so.
So, I think what you do is interesting because I know you're good, but also when you see people recognize when I've seen people recognize it as well, it's like, yeah, there is something good about this fucking cat. So, I just want to talk. I want to find out what got you into it, why you're at where you're at, and shit like that. So, what got you into playing like the bass? Because everyone wants to play guitar. It's like saying, not everyone can win. Some of us got to play the bass.
So, I started out. Family is very musical. They pushed us to start learning music performance at a very early age. So at 7 years old, they had me taking voice and piano lessons. Yeah. Singing classical shit, and it was okay. I didn't necessarily like it, but the thing is that at the time, like, I grew up like super Filipino and Catholic, so all my friends were my family members.
So if we do some Filipino stuff, it's like cool.
No.
No pass.
I mean, like, culturally, like, that's just the way I grew up, and all of them are pushed to do some sort of performance art.
Right.
They feel like it's character building. Anyways, so that's what all of my cousins did. They were pushed to do some sort of musical instrument. When I was in 4th grade, I started playing saxophone.
You played a saxophone?
Alto sax. Played that until I was 13, 14.
So you were kind of uncool for a while.
Oh, yeah. Oh, hold on. Let me tell you even more how uncool I was. Fifth grade, that's when I started playing violin.
Fifth?
Yes. I played violin up until 14 as well. So this is where the whole bass thing comes into play. So UOP in Stockton, University of the Pacific, is actually a really well-known music college. Dave Brubeck, the renowned jazz musician, is from there. And every summer they hold a youth camp for musicians of all kinds. And my dad enrolled me in that. And I think I was 13 at the time. I was about to go into high school. So, like, puberty setting in, super insecure.
Hair coming in
hard. You don't know where you're at, in, like, in the social structure yet.
You
like,
stink.
and
Your
also
skin's
exactly,
gross.
Exactly.
You have a lot of stupid fucking opinions.
Uncontrollable boners, and you don't know where they're coming from.
Let's
You're
be
like,
real,
you
they're
look at a
totally
doorknob, and all of a sudden, bing!
They're totally you can control them.
So, he enrolled me in this, and there's two different sections. There's the orchestra section, violin, and there's the jazz section, saxophone. And I was enrolled in both. So I was the weird nerdy kid that had a cart with both a violin and a saxophone shuttling between both different types of classes. Now, normally that wouldn't be bad if I was already secure in exactly where I wanted to go musically, or if I had like a set group of friends there, but I felt like the loner already. But here's the other thing, is just the methodology of the way that classical musicians think versus jazz musicians is very, very different.
Yeah.
Classical musicians, you are supposed to be directed. You know the theory, but the thing is that you have sheet music in front of you. You have a conductor in front of you. Your conductor is conducting the whole thing, and everything is played there for you, or laid out for you. You are a conduit. You aren't necessarily the artist. You are a conduit. You are a tool. As a jazz musician, you are supposed to express yourself.
Yeah,
it's completely different.
Yeah, the idea of like having to look at sheet music and play, like, what?
Exactly.
That doesn't make sense at all.
So
comic relief.
So those two worlds are diametrically opposed. And
diametrically meaning
complete opposites
of Yep. And
I sorry. I like vocabulary as well, if you couldn't tell.
Yep.
So I was trying to exist on both ends of the spectrum, and both sides of said spectrum were shunning me for trying to exist in the side opposite of them. So I didn't fit in either of them. So by the end of that whole thing, I said, fuck it. I don't like either of y'all. But
I can't do this.
At the very end of the camp, there was we did a performance and on the jazz side. And I remember I had to go up and do like an 8-bar solo, so I had to try and figure out how to solo. I didn't know very much about theory at the time.
What were you soloing on? What was the instrument?
On sax. And fuck, I can't remember the song that we were soloing over. It was jazz standard, but at the time it didn't really have any significance to me. But I remember that at the time the two people that were backing us, bass player and a drummer. And the whole time I was watching the bass player, and he was just having tons of fun. The drummer was there just holding it down, but he didn't look like he was having fun. But the bass player was like, fuck, this is great. And I go over and talk to him after, and he was hella cool. So I'm like, oh, that sounds like a fun gig. Like, I had to go up there by myself and take a solo. He got to sit in the back and just do whatever the fuck he wanted.
So was that the moment where it was like,
That was one of them. The other thing is my ear naturally already gravitated towards lower frequencies. Like, I've always
been attracted to deeper voiced women.
Of course. And my ear always gravitated towards it, and I always recognized it, and it felt like it had a lot of power behind it. But anyways, that is a very long-winded way of getting to where I am now. I know, right?
But it's interesting because I don't think I realized that you were. I knew you were nerdy for one instrument, but for two, sick. So I didn't know that. I didn't.
Yeah.
That's interesting, and then especially to kind of to hear that you went to camp and all this stuff. I didn't know you did that. I think I knew that you had played some other instruments or something early on, but it's just cool. It's always kind of interesting. I'm sure it is with other things too, but just being myself a musician, those moments where like those key moments where something happens that changes your mind.
Yep.
That could have something to do with what you're doing, or it's just a random thing,
and you don't understand the significance at that moment.
Right. So that's cool to hear that.
So this is a thing where I feel like I got lucky though, is me gravitating towards that instrument and my personality style.
Dry.
I
long to hear your orgasms. Like, okay.
And I'm complete. I have arrived.
Time.
Wow, how many toys does he have?
He's got a lot, dude. He's got a lot.
At least he likes to share.
Yeah, no, he's totally down.
So I think that I actually lucked out with being interested in an instrument where that instrument's role coincides with my natural personality.
Right. That makes sense. I see it.
I'm not one to try and take spotlight.
Thank God. That's why we get along.
I'm a better support player, also why we get along, because I can play off of you for days.
Right.
And I play off of each other a lot. I play off of other people a lot better.
Right. And and people who know you, and I'm sure can tell that too, especially watching you and a drummer play together. It's a very that's exactly what's happening.
Mm-hmm. The other thing is my personality. I have a tendency to adapt to pretty much whatever situation I'm in, which is another reason why I'm able to like fluidly go between different types of genres,
right?
Even different lineup changes. I just have a tendency to
go with the flow,
figure out a way to deal with it.
Yeah.
So that's how I feel. I just got lucky.
Yeah. Jesus, dog.
I know.
To be young.
He loves his balls.
He does. I taught him well. So pretty much, the band camp thing and all that kind of stuff. What was the moment where you actually like the bass actually came into play?
So, after that band camp incident,
we've all had one.
Yeah. Flute in the puss. There were a lot of flutes. After that incident, the saxophone, pretty much any instrument I was playing at that point kind of lost its luster because I just saw how horrible those communities were. I didn't like the jazz community because they shunned me. I didn't like the classical community because they shunned me too. I'm like, this is stupid.
Who am I?
Yeah. And the whole bass player thing just stuck in my mind. So I asked my parents, like, hey, like, could I have a bass instead? And they're like, no, fuck you. We spent tons of money sending you to this goddamn camp. And now you're quitting all the instruments that we, like, invested all this money into? No. So they wouldn't spend the money on it. So what happened is, I grew up Catholic, by the way.
I'll edit that out.
I grew up
and
and I was in youth group at the church that I was going to, and they were putting together a worship band.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, I'm interested in playing bass. So they bought a bass for me to learn on. So I learned on that bass, and within 4 or 5 months, I ended up buying my own and giving that one back to them so that they can do whatever they wanted with it.
Right.
Yeah. Ever since then, and this is the funny thing, is that during your high school years,
Mine?
anybody's high school years,
Gotcha.
if they played an instrument, those were the formative years where you were kind of learning your identity and spending all your time like in your room just jamming, right?
When you can afford
Yeah.
to spend that much time on it.
So the other thing that happened during that time was I went to a private school. I went to a private school of about 30 people. 30 people in my class, and the same class like graduated with us the whole time. So I knew, like, as far as my social circle, I had my family and the 30 people in that class. Right?
Yeah.
So what happened was my parents didn't like the private high school that everything was kind of lined up for me to go to. So instead, they sent me to a public school where I knew one person.
Jesus.
And the public school had 800 people just in my grade alone. There was 2,000 people total. So I went from a class of 30 people to all of a sudden 2,000 people. So at that time, like, 14-year-old, again, super insecure, going through puberties.
Hard as a rock, dick.
Uncontrollable boners.
Hard as a rock.
I tried to figure out which group I belonged in. There was some nerdy kids that were also musicians there. So I gravitated towards them.
What?
One of them lived like maybe a 4-minute car ride away from me. I could bike to his house within 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So he became my best friend. His name is Josh, and he was a guitarist and a singer, and he was the one that actually started getting me into like more metal.
Mm-hmm.
And he had this kind of detached garage in his backyard that his dad set up as a jam room. So he had a drum set, bass amp.
It's
guitar
great
amp.
when you find friends that have
Oh my god,
these fucking
was-
like setups where like, wait guys, this is perfect.
Well, I mean, perfect is a stretch.
No, it's perfect.
It was perfect at the time.
Right.
Like there was definitely
808.
Yeah. There was definitely some things where it was fucking dangerous. Like, it wasn't grounded right.
Oh no.
So the thing is that, like, if you walked outside of the carpeted area onto the concrete pad, it instantly shocked you because you were holding a guitar and it was trying to complete the loop.
One of the first jam rooms that I was in with David in one of the early, like, not really bands, but we'll just say a band. And it was a friend's backyard, and it was like a separate, like, shack,
Oh yeah.
but that was converted, that had like built-in bunk bed section on one side and then just like an empty room on the other. And that's where we jammed, basically a guitar, bass, and a microphone.
Yeah.
I think. And like there was no wall, like no, like everything was just open basically. There was outside walls, but there was no like inside walls.
Oh, okay.
So you could see all the structure and shit. And there was like rat shit on the fucking like everything. It was just so gross, but it was the best shit ever.
Yeah. Back then you didn't care.
No, it was perfect. That's what I'm saying. It was like perfect. Like, no, oh my god, this is perfect. This is absolutely perfect. So that's cool. Yeah, it's funny to hear that shit.
I mean, I think every musician has to go through that time.
Yeah. Yep.
Those are the formative years.
Yeah.
Those are like when you're just like making mistakes left and right, trying to figure out like what style you are.
Right.
I mean, not even just that, like trying to figure out fundamentals, like even like what style of music you like to play.
Yeah. Yep. What are we gonna play?
He looks offended that I'm trying to stop him from like
He's like, dude, I'm
his balls
I'm
all
the
over
comic
place.
relief. So, Artie.
It's funny that now you have an entire stash of toys behind you. that
Yeah, I
he's
have to
brought you.
hide toys behind me. Hey, bro. Hey, brother. Lay down. He's so good. There you go. All right. So you got your bass. You're jamming with Homeboy.
Yeah.
So from there. So you got into like metal music and stuff like that.
Yeah. At the time, like grunge was, getting towards its end. This was like 98.
Mm-hmm.
I got even heavier into
Like fat.
yes, both. I got heavier into music when my social life basically tanked because my parents took me out of high school and started homeschooling me. This was during the middle of my sophomore year. So at that time, one of my only friends that I really had a good connection with was Josh. So pretty much every day after school, I would just go over to his house and we would just jam.
Yeah.
So that was my only outlet.
It's all making sense now that I'm looking at you. I'm like, yeah, I see it all.
Yeah, fucking nerdy ass homeschool kid.
Oh
yeah,
my god! I'm gonna hit stop real quick.
Get the fuck out of my house.
Sorry.
So that's when I really started practicing a lot more. My cousin gave me his old drum set. So my brother at the time was also learning drums too. So we would jam during the quote unquote school day. And then after that, then I would go over and, to my friend's house and jam with him. At that time we were hooked on like Metallica and Alice in Chains.
Yeah. Artie likes those bands too.
Apparently. Stone Temple Pilots. I mean, all the good like late 90s rock bands.
Right.
Then end of sophomore year, there was a talent show. Josh wanted to play it. He wanted to do a cover of Stone Temple Pilots' Creep. Obviously, like, okay, cool, I'll play bass. He's like, sweet, all right. I found a drummer from my youth group that would be willing to play. Like, okay, we jammed a few times, and we also had our other friend Chris that would sing.
You weren't singing then?
Hold up. So this is the thing that this could have been either completely terrifying and prevented me from actually playing forever, but the way that it ended up going was actually kind of neat. So we're playing the high school talent show. Rehearsing for the high school talent show. The day before, Chris backs out.
Fucking Chris.
I know, goddamn Chris.
Do you still talk to Chris?
No.
Good.
I mean, I did after then, but for a bit, but
you realized.
Anyways, he backed out, and Josh said, "Oh, you can sing it. You got a good voice." I'm like, I can't play this line and sing it at the same time. And he's like, "Yeah, you can." I'm like, "No, I can't." He's like, No, you can't. Try it. I tried it. I'm like, I can't fucking do this. He's like, "No, we can do this." I'm like, No, I don't think you're hearing me right now.
I don't
can't
think you hear me, dude.
So I was able to maybe, like, flub my way through it. Like,
I wish I would have seen it.
So here's the thing: Stone Temple Pilots. Wait, was it Creep? No, it was that. No, it was Creep. Sorry. So, Robert DeLeo,
the bass player.
yes. His bass lines aren't easy. They are melodic, complicated, bouncy. They're like counter melodies to the vocals.
Right.
So me at the time, I was already struggling playing the bass lines. So then trying to put vocals on top of that, it was damn near impossible. I think I remember trying, like, getting through like one take of it where like it was meh, it was okay. Where I could concentrate on one of them and one of the others would suffer. So like
You had to balance out.
I was spinning two plates, and either way, like, you know, one of them was kind of falling. So we're playing. We're setting up to play. I'm fucking terrified.
Is this your? No, it's not your first performance though.
The only other quote unquote performance was me playing at the church, and it's not necessarily a performance because we're in a fucking choir loft. Oh my god, how many fucking toys do you have? Jesus, dude.
He's showing off, and he's like, check this one out.
So that doesn't really count as a performance, like, because no one can fucking see you,
Right.
so it doesn't matter. But here I am. I'm in front of the entire high school in the gymnasium. Here's the other thing. It's bouncy as fuck. Hard surfaces everywhere. There's 0 monitors. Like, when I spoke into the mic, I'm like, I can't hear anything. It's like, is this on? And little did I know that it's projecting to the whole...
So you can't hear it, but...
I couldn't hear it, but everybody else could. And the asshole MC, like, grabs the mic, and he's like, yeah, dude, it's on. I'm like, okay, I hear you loud and clear now, but I can't hear myself. Like, either way, I'm like, okay, fuck, this is going to be messed up. So we start into the song, and I'm doing that thing where I'm spinning plates, like, and one of them's falling, and I'm trying to figure out, okay, which plate do I concentrate on? One of them's gonna end up being, you know, gonna end up breaking. So maybe halfway through the first chorus, I just say, fuck it, I can't sing this shit, and I'm like, I'm just playing bass. But the thing that was cool is the entire crowd knew the song and started singing along with it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Thank goodness.
Yes. So at that point, I'm like, okay, cool. At least, like, there's value in me playing bass. Maybe me not singing. But either way, had that gone wrong, I probably might have been utterly terrified and never performed again. I mean, as a, like, you know, insecure 15, 16-year-old.
You're like,
I mean,
well, nope.
Yeah.
I don't need to ever feel that way again.
Yeah.
That's funny. So
again, like, one of those other defining moments that you don't know is going to shape your entire life later on.
That's hilarious. So when did you start getting into actually playing in like real bands, like shows and stuff? Because when I met you, you were doing the Burn Hill Scar thing, which I joined up later on. But you were doing bands and stuff like that before then, right?
Yeah, a little bit. So,
or was that your first, like?
That was my first, like, real quote unquote band experience. Granted, that wasn't necessarily a band because it wasn't just all lineup. That was just one show, right? So I had a friend from that same youth group, Chris, who was a drummer. He was okay, but he had these two cousins, Joe. Oh, sorry, he had a cousin Joe that lived up in Reading, and this one friend. Oh fuck, I can't remember his name now.
Already has another toy to show you.
I see that. Oh, God, Steve. That were both, like, insane guitarists for how old they were. Like, they were huge into, like, you know, Satriani and Steve Vai and Yngwie Malmsteen, and they were both shredders, right? But Joe, the one that lived all the way up in Reading, he had actually a really, really good voice. He liked more, like, Jack Johnson mixed with, like, you know, Sublime kind of stuff. So we started playing with him. Gigged, like, a few times, but that was, like, my first real taste of, like, being in a band with, like, a solid lineup.
And when was this?
This was...
Were you still in high school?
I had just gotten my GED at 17, and then ended up, like, getting my my diploma because I was planning on going into the military.
Whoa.
Yeah. I got my
and then they saw your Metallica
diploma.
tattoo, and they're like, nah, dude.
No, it was, like, in between the time that so I got my GED, was gonna enlist in the military. I got a high enough ASVAB score where I can pretty much have any job I wanted, except my GED was holding me back. So they sent me to adult school. So they were shuttling me from Stockton to Manteca to go to this adult school and finish my diploma. I ended up getting my diploma, but right before I received it, 9/11 happened.
And what were you like?
Yeah, I'm like, I'm good. We're going to go to fucking war.
I'm going to play the bass instead.
Yeah. How about I just chill here? Thanks. I'll take that diploma that you helped me get, but I'm going to chill here.
Wow. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Timing.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, I wouldn't last in the military. Let's just say that. That'd be horrible for me. Just not my thing. Anyways, they were shredders, and sorry, where were we going? Oh yeah, at what time this was? So yeah, so I was like 18, 19. And I played with them for about like a year. Granted, like we couldn't really do like rehearse that much since he lived all the way up in Reading.
Right.
But when I turned 20, I kind of got fed up with Stockton.
What?
Yeah, I know. And that's when I said like, fuck it. I just want to move up to Sacramento and just do something. Like they have a better scene out there. They have something that isn't Stockton.
Well, Stockton has that mall.
Yeah. Do you mean the one that everybody gets shot at?
Yeah, still have it.
Yeah.
You know, we don't need to go there. So you moved out here?
Yeah. And one of the first people that I met was Skylar and Sean. And
is this because you were working at Guitar Center?
Yeah. And they were at the time I was still living in Stockton but working at Guitar Center.
Oh wow.
And they said that they needed a bass player, or Skylar at the time was moving from bass to just straight vocals.
Right.
And he's like, well, yeah, you can come try out here. He handed me a demo of the 2 songs.
Right.
And I think it was like a week, and I learned both of them, and it was funny because like Bean, they said like after I left, he was like, oh yeah, fuck yeah, the motherfucker looks gay, but yeah, he can play bass.
And he wasn't wrong.
Yeah, he's not wrong.
Ain't nothing wrong with just saying it like it is.
Bean doesn't have the most open of minds.
Well, now he does.
Yeah.
Then
it's more open than it was.
Right. You can see through the crack now.
Yes.
That's so funny. So that was so Burn Hill Scar was your first
actual band.
Yes. Oh, okay.
Yeah. And keep in mind at the time, like I didn't really have any exposure to death metal at all. Didn't really have any exposure to hardcore. It was just, maybe the hardest I had listened to at the time was oh no. I lie. Sorry. At the time I was already into Meshuggah. No, I was. Yeah. I had exposure to it but never fathomed playing it.
Right.
Because I didn't think it was interesting as a bass player.
Really?
Yeah, because at that time, I mean, most metal, the bass isn't that interesting. Well, it's all about the guitars and the drums.
And this is what I was going to get at too. I'll just jump ahead because with you saying that, I don't really know how where you were at as far as technicality and that kind of stuff goes at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But ever since I've known you, you've always been that kind of tech. You had some like technicality to you with everything, like feeling like no, like lag, be a little behind. Like the fuck are you talking about? What do you mean? I gotta I gotta be like no behind the beat. So
I
like
remember
play
that shit.
off time.
Yep.
You're like, no, it's on time. So you've always had this kind of like technicality to your playing, and that's not just to say with the technical side of metal, but it's just the technical side of playing in general. So, when did that happen? Was that before the Burnt Hill Scar thing, or was that kind of in the beginning of getting into that and kind of,
So
growing more as a musician and stuff like that?
that I remember the specific time that you're talking about. We were doing that one song where it had we wrote that one song where the riff had to lag behind the beat.
Yeah.
And I remember specifically there was like listening to our recordings and trying to figure out like technically we should sound solid, but it didn't sound solid at all.
There was something off.
There was something off
because it was on.
Well, it's not because it was on. It's because where everybody felt like they were on was in a different place.
Oh, okay.
And that's when I found out like, oh, okay. And at the time I was also listening to different types of music and figuring out like, fuck, these guys are hella solid. They're playing stuff that's super, super simple, so much more space. But because of that, there's a lot more room in between notes to be able to figure out exactly where you want to play stuff.
The sweet spots.
Sweet spots,
Yeah.
exactly. And that's when I started learning how to play in the pocket.
Right.
Also, at the time, I was still, working at Guitar Center. So, I mean, you're getting musicians left and right, and there's like tons of different influences, tons of different skill sets, tons of different skill levels. And just talking with them, like, they start like exposing you to different skill sets and different things that you can appreciate in music. And I think through that is when I started realizing like there's some of this stuff that can really be applied to different genres. And the sense of really, really good timing and pocket wasn't really being employed in metal that well.
Not as much as maybe it is now with like the gent thing.
Exactly. And gent was what was the first time that it really started to click.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I remember that playing with with that band, the Burnt Hill Scar band, and jamming with you. You were definitely the one, like, everyone had a great role in that band, and everyone had their places and whatnot, but you were the one that kind of had the technical eye and ear for everything, and Artie agrees. And it was just like, and everything you would say just never made sense. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, I don't get it.
Just let me play, man.
But
let me play my riff.
As it goes on, it makes sense after you kind of get it.
At the time, I probably wasn't necessarily the best at vocalizing it or trying to communicate what I was trying to say. Because granted, I was just learning these concepts, on my own as well. So.
You were a homeschool kid.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah. But, yeah, so, and I know what you're talking about, too, about being introduced to things. And that's how I think I grew as a musician, too, was not by, doing a school thing and learning things like that from that point of view, but it was more like friends showing me stuff.
Yeah.
Or like, check this band. I'm like, oh, how the hell do they do that? And learning that way. And and like you said, being exposed to more stuff was a really big part of it. That was the schooling, was being exposed to things and meeting other people and like, how the hell, like Spencer with those little flutter harmonic things. Like, what the fuck is that? So I totally understand that, learning from that kind of thing. Which it's I don't know, it's a cool way to learn stuff. There's something about it.
That's one of the reasons why it's important to play with as many different people as you can.
Yeah, I can see that for sure.
Because you really don't have anything to lose from playing with people that have a different background from you. They might not even be at the same skill level as you, but they might do something completely different from the way you would have done it. And
Right.
there is insight to be gained from that.
That is that. It's true. It's true. I mean, you might going from one genre to the next, kind of, you might lose a little bit of like you lose a little bit, when you kind of put your focus on something else.
Yeah. Some stuff gets lost in translation.
Yeah.
But still, like, regardless, there is insight to be gained from someone else's, experiences in music.
Right. So after the Burn Hill Scar thing, we did that for what? Well, how long were you in that band for before I came along? Maybe a year?
Yeah, about a year.
And then I came in, shook the world.
Yeah.
Shook the foundation. You hated me. That's
Well,
fine. No, that's fine.
Yeah. Well, the thing with this way, I was used to playing, like, filling out all the sound and like, motherfucker, you're coming in.
Hey, Q, step aside.
You coming in and trying to occupy some of my frequencies?
Yep. Step aside, Q. I got this. I play guitar. So
here's another thing, though, is at that time, you also had Sean, who was a very, very strong personality.
Yeah,
who was
for
also
sure.
trying to be as loud as possible.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
putting in more volume in that room, it just not necessarily like amplitude wise, but also personality wise. It's like, okay,
There's a lot going on.
for a little, like, homeschool kid like myself, that's a little much to handle.
Guys, I'm having a hard time adjusting here. Can we just do like a one-on-one? So yeah, I would say, well, I don't know. Well, no, I'll say at that time, the Burn Hill Scar, era of your musical career, we'll just say, I would say that was your definite physical, technical, like, peak, because you were doing a lot of stuff. You were playing a lot of notes, fast. It seemed like you were balancing the groovy stuff, the technical part, all of these things in bass. And I think because your mind just worked in that way, you wanted to do it all almost.
Yeah.
Which makes listening back, you're like, what the fuck was
Yeah.
I doing? Which was cool, and it's still cool, but it's definitely like, whoa, I was doing a bit much then.
So I wouldn't necessarily say technical or physical peak. I would say as far as manual dexterity is concerned.
Okay,
yes.
yeah.
Yes.
For sure.
Like how fast my hands were, like what I could get away with. Yes.
There wasn't
And-
any like do. There was like do.
Yeah. There was nary a whole note. Here's another thing is
That sounded like a sick beat.
so here's another thing is at that time I was used to playing just straight support. I was used to being the bridge between Bean and Sean. And so I was filling in everything, especially with, like, when Sean started going off doing his noodling shit. Then you come in and you're like, what the hell? It redefined my role in that band. That's one of the reasons why I was like, oh shit, I have to rethink everything.
Did you have a "who am I" moment?
Nah, I was just like, I hate this motherfucker. Get the hell out of my life.
I feel like I played the role of that, like, later in the season added character, and then it fucked everything up. Oh, the cousin from this family, like, hi. And I messed shit up.
You were jumping the shark.
Pretty much. So,
But yes, like you were saying, yes, that was my, like, as far as the manual dexterity is concerned, that was my peak. Now, at that time, I don't think I knew everything I was able to do with it.
yeah, I think you were just doing it.
Yeah, I was just doing it.
So, was that really, like, your only, like, metal band?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and it seems, it's funny because it seems like a lot of people, for the most part, a band ends whatever genre, we'll just say metal for this version, and then you seek out another metal band
Of similar genre.
Yeah.
At least I mean, it might not necessarily be in the same subgenre, but the same genre.
Right, and it could be because of that's just what you want to play, or that's the crowd that you're used to. You know, the groups of people that you play with. That's who you know. So that makes sense, you know. But you didn't. And when you dropped the name of the band,
oh god,
that you were going to. It was a bit of a shock. We weren't mad at you. We were just disappointed, Q.
Hey, we weren't doing anything at that time, so I don't understand why you guys were disappointed.
You know, we just expected more. No, but and it's not as a dramatic turn as to what you do now, but it was something different for sure.
Granted, at that time,
say the name.
I'd rather not.
You say it.
I'm saying I still rather not say the name. Either way, at that time, I didn't know that I would be hopping from one genre to the next, like trying to figure out, like, I mean, you know, take experience from this genre, taking some experience from that genre. That trend or that behavior hadn't been established. This is the first time I did it.
Right.
So
things were just happening.
So I can understand from someone else's perspective why that would come as a shock.
So did you make the jump to now whatever genre? Let's just say cock?
Butt rock. It's straight up butt rock.
So was that because you wanted to play butt rock, or was it because it's just an opportunity came up?
So the opportunity came up. They already had an established name.
What was that name?
I'd rather not say. The one thing is that I saw a lot of potential in that band. The guitarist, who was one of my friends, was a shredder, like amazing guitarist, super solid. But the other thing was the drummer in that band was probably the most solid pocket rock player that I have ever played with.
Right.
And I remember initially going in for that audition and thinking like, wow, this is weird. This doesn't feel right. Like everything that I'm playing doesn't fit. And being completely perplexed.
Were you overthinking, overplaying?
I was overplaying.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
because that's what you were used to doing.
That's exactly it. And the fact that it was so different, and I could tell like everybody else is doing their job really, really well. I'm the weak link here. Me having to figure out my role in this band. That was one of the things that was actually alluring, and that's what made me want to join, because like, all right, these guys are really experienced. I at least want to gain some insight from this.
And that's another one of those moments that you don't realize it at the time.
Yep.
But that caused that created something. That created that mindset of adjusting and learning.
To this day, I remember the first time I really, really was able to lock in with that drummer, like completely. And I hadn't felt that before, where it felt like my bass notes were merging in with his bass drum, and it sounded like they were like one instrument, and it was weird. But the thing is that it sounded so good,
and it opened something up. You're like, hey, wait a minute, there's something else now. Yeah,
and it's not like it was just happening once. It was like throughout the whole song,
right?
And we were like playing off of each other, and yeah, it was great. Now, granted, he was just a straight rock drummer. He played the same exact thing every single time,
right?
The exact same time, so it was easy for me to predict it.
Right. But which probably helped.
It did. Yeah.
So metal, butt rock.
Yep.
And then the Heroes thing happened, right?
Yep. Heroes Last Mission.
And that was even more popular.
Yeah, it was pop rock with punk influences.
Right. Pop punk?
Yeah, pop punkish, yeah.
And that was, again, it was like all these changes, all these kind of things that you were getting into, like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
You know, in the beginning, it's just like, what in the fuck are you doing, dude? But then after a while, you kind of like, as far as like someone from my point of view, seeing what you were doing, it's like, you know, a part of me was like, what are you doing? Like, playing fucking metal, dude. You're sick. But after a while, for me, like, I kind of like, oh, wait a minute. There's something going on here.
Mm-hmm.
He's not. He's not just a metal bass player. And so
I could have been.
You could have been, yeah,
Yeah.
easily. But you weren't. Maybe just out of the situations that had come up, the opportunities that came up, you know. Maybe if a metal band wanted you might still be doing it.
I probably would have.
But
yeah.
so yeah, then you were doing the Hero's Last Mission thing, which was definitely different. And seeing you play with that, and I don't think I ever seen you play with Mike.
So there was two things that made me want to join that band. One were the twins. I hadn't heard like harmonies on a local level working that well.
Yeah.
And then also Mike Johnston. He was their drummer at the time, and he was just amazing. Like it was weird because I remember specifically the drummer of that band. Heroes played with that band I was in at the time, and the drummer of the band I was in came up and said, like, hey, do you think Mike's better than me? And I'm like, yeah,
Yeah, like, you know, like, yes.
he's like, as far as like technicality is concerned, yes, but he's like, what do you mean? Like, I think he's got a weird pocket. He's like, yeah, you have like a ridiculous pocket, but as far as technicality, yes, he's better than you.
Yeah, no, it's
I mean,
he's better, but like, nah, you know.
that's like asking like, hey, is Jocko better than me?
Right.
Yes, Jocko is better than me.
Yeah, easily.
But I don't know, that's again like one of those like weird moments that happened at
What a
time.
weird position to be put. Like, yes.
But see, here's the other thing that was funny is like at that time he was in a position, and well, I don't know where I was in that headspace, but he was in a position where he felt like he couldn't appreciate anybody else's playing. He was worried about someone else being better than him. And that's the part that's different. Is like, instead of being pissed off that someone's better than you, you'd be like, oh fuck, the way he did that was way different than the way I would have done it.
Yeah, you really can't appreciate what someone's abilities when you do that.
Exactly.
And then you kind of close yourself off to taking a moment like that and growing from it.
Yeah. You're immediately closing
Yeah.
yourself off to new experiences, and then it also prevents you from gaining any new insight from that musician's playing.
That's weird. Yeah, it's a weird, and I can understand. I mean, I understand that kind of feeling of like, God damn it, you know, like, why is, God damn, you know, that like,
And I understand it at, at a certain level, like, when you're vying for a certain position, when you're jockeying for positions in like, certain bands, but I mean, at the time they weren't auditioning for the same band.
Right.
So what's the point in, being pissed off that someone's better than you?
Yeah, like,
It
why
just
do you
doesn't
feel
make
threatened by it?
Exactly.
You
There's no
shouldn't.
reason to feel threatened by it.
Yeah.
But anyways,
So the Heroes thing, and you did that for a while.
I did that for about 5 years.
5 years.
Yeah.
And so that was a definite different change of pace. What made you even want to do that? Well, I mean, I know you said like the twins, and was it just kind of an overall thing of the band, or like, I think I want to do this?
They with the twins, I saw so much potential. And they had really good personalities. I got along with them really well. At the time, we had different guitarists as well, and we got along pretty well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And then also Mike. I mean, couldn't complain. He's an amazing guy.
Yeah.
Like, super.
For
nice
those
guy.
who don't know, name drop.
Yeah, Mike Johnston. Yes. He's one of the best in the industry.
Simon Says.
Not necessarily the best drummer. I'm just kidding. He's kind of.
Nah, he good. He
good.
good.
He good.
He was in
But
Simon Says, right?
He was in Simon Says, yeah. But he's like one of the best personalities too. He's just a really good friend.
I might have met him one time maybe, but yeah, he always seems like a cool guy, and he's a hell of a drummer. He has that weird flipper hand.
He doesn't do that anymore.
What?
Yeah, he retired that. That
no.
takes its toll on your
No,
rotator cuff, bro.
No, I'm gonna email him. Mike,
he busts it out every once in a while.
Mike, bring the fucking flipper back. Fuck that, Mike. Bring it back. You heard it here first on the Marmar's Hello There podcast with me, your host, Martin. I like to plug it in there once in a while. In
They're already listening. Why do you have to plug it? I don't understand.
So that happened, and then Mike eventually left.
He left
to do because he's
he
really doing a lot of other shit.
He had already started the drum lab
right
at that point. So
Julian came along.
And Julian came along,
and
then we kicked out Matt,
and Art came in,
and Art was also a completely different influence in that band,
right?
Because he brought a little bit more of the metal,
yeah,
which I loved. Art also is like an amazing guitarist, can pretty much exist in any genre you wanted.
Yeah,
super versatile.
Yeah, cool guy too, and I
think
Julian
as well.
Yeah,
multi-instrumentalist,
multi-angle camera videologist.
Yes,
9 shots.
Yeah.
I think Heroes was the first time that well, I mean, you've always kind of done it, but being not a member of the band, but just watching you play, I think Heroes was the first time that I actually watched you and a drummer fall in love, I guess.
Yeah.
And that was like, what the, like, it was there was something that was cool about it to see you and a drummer just fucking almost like there's nothing else happening but you and the drummer playing.
Yeah.
And you guys just smiling and laughing. And it was super interesting to see, like, what the fuck is going on? Like, yeah, anyone see what's happening up there? And you would look back, and he'd look like, and a part would come up like, and you guys would come in at the same time. Oh. And that was the first time, that band was the first time that I saw that kind of stuff. And always watching you play, being next to you and playing with you and stuff like that, there was always something that just, like, was super, I don't know, just interesting about you and you playing bass, not as a person. You're terrible as a person.
I know.
but as a bass player, just watching, there was always just something about you that was just like, I don't know, like I just could tell, like, he gets something. There's something that he's, and I might even not know the words now or whatever, but definitely not then. But there was always something about you that was like, this fucking guy gets it. There's something in him that gets it. There's something in him that gets the groove and figuring things out and connecting with the musicians that he's playing with and wanting to play as a band and as a unit, even if there's different things happening, make it come together. And you always had that kind of technical eye and ear and for that kind of stuff. And even though being next to you on a stage that we had done for a couple years, it wasn't until like the Heroes thing when I saw you up there, you and Julian just working off each other, like, yeah, this fucking guy understands things right now. I really started to get it when I would see you guys play. It was just like, yeah, he gets it. I don't know. He's having fun. But they're speaking a language to each other right now with no words. It's body, it's the music, And that was the first time that I really, like, realized it, actually, like, realized it was when I saw you and Julian playing.
I still think at that time I didn't realize that all happens because I got lucky with finding an instrument that really suits my personality.
Yeah.
And
definitely an extension.
Yeah. And the role also suits my personality too. Mm-hmm. So I enjoy playing that role. Like, if I can make it, and you said, if I can make the band sound better, I've done my job.
Right.
There's I remember when I quit Heroes, I got probably maybe like 2-3 months after that, I got probably one of the best compliments that I've gotten as a musician.
Your breath smells good
Yep.
all the time.
Someone
It wasn't that?
No. My breath's horrible. That's why I always have gum on me, bro.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
This keyboardist was gonna try out for Heroes, and he was trying to learn my bass parts. And I remember it was at a concert in the park.
Did you give him a sideways look like you trying to learn my
Hey,
parts?
motherfucker.
Is your name Martin?
Okay, so actually, this same concert in the park was when me and James actually
James and I.
Sorry, thank you for the correction.
Yeah.
James and I actually reconnected. Like, we never liked each other before this, but
Oh,
then
yeah.
this was when we were like, okay, yeah, we can hang out, kind of thing. But anyways, the keyboardist came up and told me, like, dude, I didn't realize how good you were until I tried playing your parts, and now that's all I hear. I never noticed your what you were playing before, and now that's the only thing I can hear. And I said, thank you. That was my entire goal. I want to be invisible support. I don't want you to notice me until you notice me.
Right.
And then that's it.
Yeah, it's a good feeling because it's like, no, you. Yeah, there's a weird feeling like, oh, you saw and you listened and that is a cool thing.
Mm-hmm.
That is a cool thing, and that's again like one of those things about you that this is why people like playing with you. There's something about you. You don't need to play a million fucking notes. You can, if it needs to happen.
I can't anymore.
You can't anymore. You're way too fucking old. You're like 49. But you always kind of your role and your personality and everything kind of like it works.
Yeah, totally.
For being a bass player. Standing in the back and judging people.
Oh, and I do
perfectly. So, after Heroes, I took a bit of a hiatus. Maybe about a year and a half off. What was I doing? I was training jiu-jitsu a lot back then. Now, does this mean a total hiatus from playing bass and?
I
or
was
just kind of.
You know what? This was during the time when I was kind of playing with you and thinking about doing the Antioch stuff.
Oh. Yeah.
Getting back into metal. But again, like my main thing was performing, and if we weren't going to play any shows, that kind of wasn't my thing.
Yeah.
So that the time that I went back to concert in the park, that's when I met James again, and he's like, yeah, just hang out. And again, when I first met James, I hated him. We both hated each other.
There's a running theme in your life.
Yep.
Now, real quick, here's a funny thing. I know I've told you, but I'm going to say it anyways. The first time I met James was when he was working at Guitar Center.
Yeah.
And I went to buy something in my house. Like, you got one of those cool, silly voices. I was like, oh, hey. That's what I said in real life.
Yeah.
And we were talking about stuff, and I remember thinking, I don't remember why. I'm sure something was said, but it was like, I remember thinking like, I don't know if I told him, but either way, I was thinking like, you probably like my friend's band, Heroes Last Mission. And I remember that was one of the first things that I thought of. So it's just funny, like later down the line, you guys didn't like each other.
Yep.
Which was funny. And I remember you telling me that. You're like, oh, yeah, that guy, nah. And
he was a cocky bastard.
Aren't we all?
He still is.
He is.
Yeah.
Bless you, James. James Cavan. How does he say it?
James Cavan.
Subtle. Very subtle. And then, you guys somehow sparked a friendship.
Yeah.
And
actually, so the way that his it started was he got me in on one of the Radiohead. Wait. What's the Radiohead show?
The first one?
Yeah. I can't remember if I started playing with him before that.
I think you played with him before
No, I was playing with him before that. Yeah. Yeah. I was. No, I wasn't.
No?
Nope. Yeah, I wasn't playing with him before that because I didn't know Richie at the time. The first time I met Richie was at the Radiohead rehearsals. And
this isn't like actual Radiohead.
Yeah.
For anyone's
No,
listening.
no. So okay. So the first time I played with James was actually at the assembly. Okay, this is a funny story.
It better be.
I first went and you actually have to take part in this.
Yeah, sup, people?
So when you were working at Ederays.
So me, the host of the Marmar's Hello There podcast, with me, your host, Martin.
They're already listening, bro.
Always listening.
The employee barbecue for Ederays.
Oh, yeah.
I ended up winning the grand prize, and I felt bad. I'm like, I don't even work here.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, take it. It was 2 tickets to the burger battle. So I'm like, fuck it, sweet. I'm gonna eat my fucking burgers. Get fucking drunk. Anyways, I go there, and who's playing?
God damn it,
James. And James was like, why the fuck? Why are you here? I'm like, I want tickets. And he's like, okay, cool. Well, you get to see us play. And at the time, he had a pretty good lineup, but there was one meltdown that he had because the rest of the band weren't rehearsed. And at that moment, he was like, fuck, Q was watching me. God damn it. And the whole band is like,
And that's when everyone found out James can bleed.
So what happened is in that moment, he said like, no, I'm going to bring Q on board. So he had me play with him. He had me play 3 songs with him, just bass, guitar, and vocals. I was like playing, like doing chordy stuff behind him.
Okay.
On bass. We maybe had like a rehearsal and a half. So it was not like well rehearsed at all. I was like winging it.
Raw.
But his current bass player came in like and watched the show.
Ooh.
Yeah. So it's like walking in on your chick fucking another dude.
Yeah.
It was a little strange. So that's how he got me into the band. But then after that, it was they were still like trying to figure out the whole lineup. But we had the Radiohead cover band, which was kind of like a Sacramento
tribute
thing.
Show.
Tribute show, yeah. There was like maybe like 15, 20ish musicians
Rotating artists per song.
Yeah.
Very interesting way to do it.
It was super fun though.
Yeah.
The first one, the second one that you were part of actually ended up going a lot better.
Probably because of me.
Yeah, totally.
I know the guys in DGD, so
kind of a big deal in this town.
So that's interesting. Yeah, James.
With James, I actually like I've gotten to play with some like really good drummers too.
Yeah, and so the thing with James is also an interesting kind of thing because again, you got into something that was different from the last thing.
Yep.
And it's I wouldn't say that. Well, you've had these like progressions from like sort of technical melodic metal, kind of deathy, but not really, more metal than anything, into the kind of hard butt rock kind of stuff, which is an understandable shift, I guess, into from there to the pop rock, pop punky kind of stuff, into kind of now what you do. What is it? What's the world that you're playing in now? That you just a nutshell it.
As far as genres?
Yeah.
So, well, James started as like R&B with indie influences. Now it's like R&B with more like some electronic and
it's morphing for sure.
Yeah,
but definitely in the world of the R&B.
Yeah,
kind of
still a lot of R&B roots.
Funkiness maybe.
There's some funk
once in a while, but definitely R&B.
Yeah,
and to me, for you, and you've always, I don't know about always, but it seemed like you were always a fan of some sort of R&B music.
Oh yeah,
and it made sense.
I mean, it's bass centric,
right?
So
yeah. It's a good world to be in for a bass player.
Yeah.
And to me, I mean, I mean, you would have to get your, your metal chops up and stuff like that. But we know you could do that. I know you could do that. But it seems like you're really able to apply all the stuff from before, the technical stuff, the solid rock stuff, the kind of introducing a little more standout bass stuff, but still, staying in the pocket and staying in the place. And now with the R&B stuff and whatever else it's kind of turning into, you're really able to apply all that stuff and kind of pick and choose what's going to suit the song and this section and this part and for whatever reason.
Yep.
So it's been cool to see like, oh wow, he's doing the R&B thing, and it's really, I think, with your technical abilities, with your knowledge of stuff as well, you also have this vocabulary that just never ends. You can definitely see it now, and it's like, no, this is right.
Yeah.
Like, this is where I think you shine for sure. Like I said, I know you can do the other stuff, but this is the place where it's like he's actually able to apply all this stuff, and it's super cool to see you do these things and watch and listen and do all this cool stuff.
It's in what you said is like the application is really what it is. Like, so all those other experiences I had, I was basically like gaining tools, as in the form of experiences,
and you don't realize what it's coming to.
Mm-hmm. But through that whole process, I'm like getting more tools, putting them on my tool belt, and now I'm in a place where where if I see an opportunity where I need to employ one of those tools, I get to use it.
Right.
And it's also sometimes you might have that tool, but you might not have the knowledge to be able to know exactly, is this the right tool to use? Mm-hmm. So I'm still like, in like,
but your mindset is right to think that way.
Yeah.
It's not that ignorant, like, I'm just fuck it. Yeah. Metal stuff. No, you have the thought process of like, I know what I have isn't right, so I need to figure it out, which is cool. Also, that means that's another sign of like growing and figuring things out and applying the appropriate stuff.
Part of being a perfectionist too. Like, I mean, you definitely show that trait too, especially like recording all the time.
I totally understand it. Yeah, so that's cool, and it's cool to see where you've come from when we first met to seeing where you're at now. Yeah. You're busy, you're doing a lot of stuff. You're not just playing with James, you're doing that project with Mike, and I don't know the other guy's name though.
Dean.
Yeah. Does that project have a name?
Yeah, Man on the Moon.
Man on the Moon.
That right now I would say is probably the most fun that I've ever had playing music.
Really?
Yeah. It's a completely different experience.
Ow, dude. This is about Martin.
Hey. It ain't
your host, Martin.
It ain't no metal, though.
That's for sure.
It ain't no metal.
Remember that, Mike and Dean. No, it's cool. It's like kind of groovy. It's not groovy and like, but there's like cool grooves. I've only heard a little bit of it. There's not too much out there, but
it's like jazz rock fusion.
Right.
But digestible.
Uh-huh.
It's jazz rock fusion, but it's more heavy on the rock and like primarily like late 90s, early 2000s rock influence, where it doesn't feel like it's hard to listen to, and there's a defined melody.
Right.
I mean, because Dean is just a killer guitarist, and the other thing is that he's a really good singer too. So he has these melodies in his head. So if he wants to, he can just play, just standard guitar parts when he needs to. But the thing that's cool is like sometimes I can take over some of those frequencies, and he can just play a guitar melody on top of it, and those are the hooks. So it's really weird, and the way that these songs come about is more like organic, where it's actually from jamming.
Yeah,
And
that's something that I had lost when doing a lot of the Antioch Synopsis stuff. Was
because you were composing everything yourself.
Yeah, and that's great, I guess, at times, but it's also draining.
Yeah.
And you miss out on a lot of that human contact
well,
and
well,
interaction.
The other thing is that you write it, you have an expectation of the way it's supposed to sound in your head,
Yeah.
and if it's not being executed the way you hear it in your head, it's always a little bit of letdown.
Quite, yeah. And I had to learn to kind of like, eventually I got to the point where it was like, I wrote in terms of like, this is what I'm hearing. Now I want to hear your take on it. You know, so I had to kind of like adjust.
You're expecting metal musicians to be like what we talked about before, classical musicians, where here's sheet music, you play your part.
Right.
I'm your conductor.
Yeah. And so I definitely missed that whole process really drained me really on playing metal.
Yep.
And writing metal and stuff like that. So when I started working with like the DGD guys and the Secret Band stuff, that was more out of jamming. And so I missed that. There's something about jamming with other musicians. It can be a struggle. It can be fucking irritating at times, but there's something about it that's like organic, and everyone is doing their role. You don't have to think for anyone. You can have suggestions and stuff, but you're not having to compose or write for someone else. Everyone's doing their thing, and it's funner. You get a better sense of where it's going and how it's sounding too.
So, the biggest difference with Man on the Moon with any other like jamming experience that I've had is we all know our roles. We also all know how we want some of the things to sound, but there's zero ego in that room. Like when we're playing,
not even a little bit.
No, like
maybe
when one of us fucks up, everybody laughs. When one of us messes up, it's addressed by like, oh fuck, what the hell just happened? Yeah. But the thing is that when something works out, we all affirm that it actually worked out, or someone did something badass.
It feels good.
It feels good, and everybody makes sure, everybody lets that person know that sounded good.
Yeah, and again with that, you missed out on those moments. Those like, oh, you fucked up, but like, wait a minute, hold on, that worked.
Yeah,
do it again. And those moments, that's happened with Monty and I on drummer, Matt. There were things like that. We're like, wait, no, stop. Do that again. That was fucking sick. You know, that
you have to be able to take risks.
Yeah,
and the thing is
that's what comes with the jamming stuff. It's those fucking magical moments. It's like, what the fuck was that? I didn't hear that.
It's the jamming, but it's also like being in a comfortable enough place to feel like, even if I take these risks, if I take these risks, it's okay if it doesn't work out.
Yeah, there's like a sense of respect for everyone too.
Yeah,
you can kind of like trust in people, and like, you know, their limitations, you know, or you know what they're capable of and stuff like that, and that feeling and that vibe between people is a fucking great feeling. To kind of, especially, you know, you're not going to piss someone off because you fucked up, you know, or things like that, you know, or like, God, what are you doing, man? It's when things work, especially in a jam situation, it feels fucking good.
Yeah,
it feels super good. So that's cool. So yeah, what's it feel like to be kind of like the premier sought after bass player in Sacramento?
I think that is an overstatement.
Go fuck yourself, you know I'm right. No, there is something about you that is appealing to people in terms of musicians needing a bass player, wanting, you know, someone. It's not like you're playing a million things, but you have, you know, you kind of get invited to these projects, which says something about you.
I still think that it has to do with me getting lucky with
there's definitely some of that in there. Yeah.
Well, with my, you know, again, finding the instrument that you know, that suited my personality, that matched it, and I love the role, and it also helps that, you know, I'm pretty easy for the most part to get along with, and I can adapt to any situation. So also, a lot of people just don't want to be a bass player.
No, it's
So-
a stupid instrument.
I agree. Uh,
Kill me.
since there's not a lot of people that naturally want to play bass and want to play bass like and revel in that role, that really really feel like this is the way I want to play it. A lot of people can play it, but they have a tendency to play it like a guitar,
yeah.
or play the way like a keyboardist would play it. It's different. I mean, and also like there's little subtle nuances, from genre to genre that sometimes you can't pick up if you weren't playing as a bass player in that genre.
Right.
So, and again, all those tools that I put in my tool belt, I can pull those out whenever I need to. So
And apply them.
yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
I think that's I mean, all the combination of all those things made it, easy for me to to never have to worry about having, needing a project to be part of, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, and it's always great, and especially like knowing you've been able to introduce me to people, musicians, different styles of music. I would say you were the one to kind of introduce me into different things, to be honest with you. Like when I joined Burn Hill Scar, I wasn't really into playing metal. Just what that band was doing seemed interesting to me. That's where I found out about, Between the Buried and Me, Meshuggah, all these other bands and stuff like that. And then as you shifted into these different bands and projects and genres, you were also showing me like different, the ones that kind of fit within those worlds. And you've definitely like introduced me to a lot of stuff. So that's, there's just just things that come out of all these situations that you've introduced me to too, which has been cool. Doing that Radiohead show. I would have never. I don't even listen to Radiohead, but it was a fun experience. I still don't listen to Radiohead, but it was a great experience.
I know, it was like pulling. Like I remember like rehearsing for that. You're like, I don't think I could do it. Like
no.
But the thing is that I know how much I gained out of playing something like that, and how much you would have gained out of it too.
And
so I knew you would have loved it.
And I thought about it. I was like, yeah, it was one of those things like, just fucking do it. But I hadn't played any shows. Like I wasn't doing shit for a while. So it's like, okay, I had those two kind of bigger shows for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh my God, I don't know. How am I going to, I don't even like this, man. But it worked out, and I met some cool people.
And then we did that grunge show after that.
Yeah.
Which was super fun.
Yeah, it was fun, and it was just, I don't know, man. It's just a lot of cool stuff, and it came from knowing you. And you've been a musician and a person as well that I've always respected.
Likewise.
And yeah, I know. But and thank you. And but I mean it, and part of this podcast thing is talking to people that I find interesting or do interesting things, and you're definitely one of them. And music is just one aspect of who you are, but it's a big one, and it's kind of I think it's played a role into the other weird shit that you do. Something about music has also kind of shaped who you are outside of music and stuff like that. So yeah, you've always been a fucking-tastic bass player. You blow my fucking mind, and you've, I don't know, man. I feel like I've grown as a person and as especially a musician because of knowing you. So it's cool to know you. It's great to see you do all these things, big or small, all these musicians to play with. So, now that my mouth is full of your dick, I just want to let you know that.
How's it feel?
I'm full. I feel like
I have arrived.
oh, early Thanksgiving. So yeah, well, Q, that was your journey from being a Christian saxophone violinist to an R&B multi-talented information WHALE Well, person. So yeah, you're the fucking man, dude. Let me hear. I got it. This is how we're gonna end this one.
Oh God.
I want you to do a vocal bass line right now.
A vocal bass line?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Just like mouth a bass line.
What?
Just like.
No one scats a bass line.
Thank you. Scat me a bass line. Bring us out with a scatted bass line. I'll give you a drum beat.
No one does that. Who wants it?
We just created something, dude.
All right. Okay.
You heard it. You heard it. That's his skills, baby.
Oh,
Anyhow, Q, thank you. Second guest, episode, well, let's say 3. Q, Quentin, Garcia. Thank you, sir. Fist bump. Hopefully there's some music to play us out at one point in time. Until then, hit it, Q. Sick, brother.